Hey, what is up? Welcome back to my channel. I'm Ivy, and today I'm going to be doing my 2020 wrap-up. I've been waiting since like March to say those words. I'm gonna start with some statistics from Goodreads because I don't know, I think they're fun and interesting for me. I know that literally no one else cares, but I care, so we're gonna go through them. I read 14,960 pages this year, and I read 32 books, which I think I wanted to read like 36. So, you know, I knew I would crash and burn, but that wasn't that bad. I mean, it could have been worse. My shortest book was 214 pages, and it was The Countess of Cactice. I don't know how to pronounce it, but we'll talk about it later. My longest book was 912 pages, and it was Queen of Air and Darkness. The average book length in 2020 for me was 467 pages. I think that's about right. Seems legit. The most popular book that I read was 1984, and the least popular was Countess of Cactice again. My average rating for 2020 was 4.4 stars out of 5. You know, seems legit. I tend to rarely give low ratings because I enjoy pretty much everything that I read. The book that I read with the highest rating on Goodreads was Clockwork Princess. That's actually very interesting. And that's it. So now I'm just going to talk about every single book that I read this year. It's gonna be fun. There's only like 32, so it should be pretty fast. The very first book that I read in 2020 was City of Ashes by Cassandra Clare. This is the second book in the Mortal Instruments trilogy. No, it's not a trilogy. Series. And it's part of the Shadowhunters Chronicles, which is going to be a theme throughout this video. In the first book of this series, which is called City of Bones, the main character, Clare discovers that she's not who she thought she is when her mom goes missing, and she gets launched into this thing called the Shadow World, and, you know, adventures and chaos ensue. I gave City of Ashes, what did I give it? 3 out of 5 stars. Next I read City of Glass by Cassandra Clare, which is book 3 in the Mortal Instruments, and I gave this one 4 out of 5 stars. The next thing I read was The Conference of the Birds by Ransom. So this is book 5 in Miss Peregrine's Home for Peculiar Children. No, this is book 5 in the Miss Peregrine's Peculiar Children series. In the first book, we follow a character named Jacob Portman whose grandfather has just died, and he is trying to kind of discover more about his grandfather's past, and he, just like Clary, discovers a world that he had no idea about and is launched into adventure and new friendships, and it's a lot of fun. I gave this particular book in this series 3 out of 5 stars. Then I read One of Us is Lying by Karen M. McManus. All you need to know about this one, because I don't really want to give too much away, is that it is a detention murder mystery. I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. I enjoyed the heck out of it. I know a lot of people, you know, had more mixed feelings and were more mediocre about it, but I loved it, so 5 out of 5 stars. Then I read The Book Thief by Markus Zusak. I really don't know how to pronounce his last name, and I really should because this is such a popular book. This book is about a girl who is growing up in Nazi Germany, and that is all I'm gonna say because you really need to read this one for yourself. I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. After that, I read The Lord of the Rings. So if you're one of those people who considers it one book, then it's just The Lord of the Rings. If not, then I read The Fellowship of the Ring, and then The Two Towers, and then The Return of the King. I really don't know what you're doing with your life if you don't know what this is about, but basically it's an epic fantasy, like the epic fantasy that inspired like all other epic fantasies. The basic premise is that a hobbit named Frodo Baggins has to take this super powerful ring to a place called Mordor and destroy it before the bad guy Sauron gets it, because bad stuff will happen and Middle-earth will be destroyed. I gave all 3 5 out of 5 stars. If you've been watching my videos this year, you know how I feel. 5 out of 5 stars to all 3. Getting back to my Shadowhunters theme, I read City of Fallen Angels by Cassandra Clare, the Mortal Instruments book 4 and gave it 4 out of 5 stars. City of Lost Souls by Cassandra Clare, book 5, and I gave this one 5 out of 5 stars. And then the 6th and final book in the series, City of Heavenly Fire, and I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. Then I read the Silmarillion. So this essentially is, oh god, this is basically kind of a guide to Middle-earth. It's like lots of history, it's very dense. It's basically just the entire story and history of the fictional world that Tolkien created. I also gave this 5 out of 5 stars. I do not recommend reading it if you are not super into Lord of the Rings, because it's very boring at some points, but it's also so good. So, you know, just do with that what you will. So then I read Clockwork Angel by Cassandra Clare, which is the first book in the Infernal Devices trilogy. This Shadowhunters trilogy takes place in Victorian England, and it's about a girl named Tessa Gray who has just arrived in London, and she kind of learns that she has some abilities that she didn't know about before, and she also discovers the shadow world. I gave Clockwork Prince 5 out of 5 stars, right? And by Clockwork Prince, I mean Clockwork Angel. Then I read Force of a Thousand Lanterns by Julie C. Dow. All you need to know about this one is it is an Asian retelling of the Evil Queen from, like, Snow White. I gave this one 3.5 out of 5 stars. Then I read Clockwork Prince, which is the Infernal Devices book 2, and gave it 5 out of 5 stars. I followed that with Clockwork Princess, the third and final book in the trilogy, and gave that one 5 out of 5 stars as well. Whoa! Then I read The Upside of Unrequited by Becky Albertalli. Follows a girl named Molly, and she's had a ton of unrequited crushes, and her sister decides that she's gonna try to convince Molly to, you know, kind of follow through with one of her crushes for once. Of course, there's drama, there's romance, there's shenanigans, and yeah. I gave this one 3.5 out of 5 stars. Then we have The Three Sisters by Sonia, where is it? Halbach? Oof, I'm so sorry. This is the first book in the Krampus Chronicles, and it's kind of hard to describe, but the main character, whose name is Maggie, I want to say? Yes. The main character, Maggie, her grandfather has taken the credit for writing the poem 'Twas the Night Before Christmas, but then maybe he didn't actually write it. I gave this one 2 out of 5 stars. Next we have Dumplin' by Julie Murphy. So this is about a self-proclaimed fat girl named Willow Dean Dixon who decides to enter her town's beauty pageant to make a statement. I gave this 4 out of 5 stars. Then I read Countess of Cactice, which is the second book in the Krampus Chronicles. I gave this one 3 out of 5 stars. Next, I read 13 Reasons Why by J.R.R. We follow Clay Jensen as he has received these cassette tapes on which a girl named Hannah Baker has outlined 13 reasons why she committed suicide. So it takes place over like one night, and we just follow Clay around town as he goes on a journey, listens to the tapes, and yeah, that's all I'm gonna say about this one. I gave this 5 out of 5 stars. Next, we have Enrique's Journey by Sonia Nazario. I do have, like, the young people version or whatever. So this is the true story about a boy named Enrique who journeys from Honduras to the United States to find his mother, who left to go to the US when he was, I don't know how old? Math is hard, like 5. I gave this 4 out of 5 stars. Next, I read Lady Midnight by Cassandra Clare, which is book 1 in the Dark Artifices, yet another Shadowhunters trilogy. This one follows Emma Carstairs, who lives at the Los Angeles Institute, and ever since her parents were murdered, she has been trying to figure out exactly what happened to them and get revenge. I gave it 4.5 out of 5 stars. Then I read Lord of Shadows, which is book 2, and I gave it 4.5 out of 5 stars. And then I wrapped it up with Queen of Air and Darkness, which is book 3, obviously, and I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. Then after that, I read Chain of Gold by Cassandra Clare, which is the first book in the Last Hours trilogy, which follows the children of the characters from the Infernal Devices, which I talked about earlier. I gave Chain of Gold 4.5 out of 5 stars. Jacoby by William Ritter. Our main character is named Abigail Rook, and she finds herself working as an assistant for a detective named Jacoby, who has the ability to see the supernatural. I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. Next, I read The Red Scrolls of Magic by Cassandra Clare and Wesley Chu. This is the first book in the Eldest Curses trilogy, which is the series that follows Magnus and Alec, or Malik. I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. Then I read book 2, which is The Lost Book of the White, and I gave that one, I want to say, 4.5 out of 5 stars. Bane Chronicles, which is by Cassandra Clare, Sarah Reese Brennan, and Maureen Johnson. This is a collection of short stories about the wonderful Magnus Bane, and I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. After that, I read 1984 by George Orwell. This is a classic. It was written in 1949, and it's essentially about the year 1984, but it's an imagined future where there's this terrifying totalitarian government, and yeah. I gave this one 3.5 out of 5 stars. And finally, the last book that I read in 2020 was Tales from the Shadowhunter Academy by Cassandra Clare, Sarah Reese Brennan, Maureen Johnson, and Robin Wasserman. This is a collection of short stories about the Shadowhunter Academy and what goes on there. I gave this 5 out of 5 stars. Oh my god. That was so many books. Alright, so I don't usually really set reading goals for like the new year other than how many I want to read. So I set my Goodreads challenge at 33 because I read 32 last year. But that is it for today's video. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you have a happy new year, and my brother decided to start playing music kind of loudly. Anyways, have a great day, and I will see you next week, maybe, for another video. Bye.